You've been taught to obey, not to rule. From the moment you were born, every system around you, school, society, even your so-called mentors, was designed to shape you into a pawn. You were told to play fair, to wait your turn, to respect the rules written by men who never intended for you to win. You were trained to seek permission before taking action, to apologize for ambition, to feel guilty for wanting more. But here's the truth. Kings aren't born in comfort. They are forged in rebellion. You've been told that we're all equal, that everyone has the same potential, the same voice, the same shot at power. It's a comforting lie, one that keeps the masses quiet. Because if everyone believes they already have power, they'll never fight to claim it. The truth is brutal. Most people will die pawns. They will wake, work, obey, and fade, proud of their small compliance, loyal to their invisible masters. Power doesn't belong to those who deserve it. It belongs to those who decide to take it. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Those who understand this don't chase approval. They command respect. They don't beg to be understood. They move with such certainty that understanding becomes irrelevant. The weak cling to love, to acceptance, to being liked. The strong understand that influence is born from controlled fear, the kind that says he can't be manipulated. Every kingdom begins in the mind. The world won't hand you a crown. It will test whether you're willing to seize it. You don't need permission to rise. You need clarity, strategy, and the courage to stand alone. Because the moment you stop waiting for approval is the moment you begin your ascent. In this world of pawns, your challenge is simple. Can you rise without permission? Can you become the type of man who dictates outcomes rather than reacts to them? Can you learn to command silence without saying a word? To make others move without lifting a finger? The 1% who do will rule, the rest will obey. This is not just another motivational speech. This is a psychological transformation, a war for mental sovereignty. Over the next few minutes, I will reveal the 12 unspoken mental laws that separate the kings from the pawns. Each law is a weapon, ancient in wisdom, modern in strategy. Each one, when mastered, moves you closer to total control over your mind, your environment, and your destiny. By the end of this video, you'll no longer think like a follower. You'll think like a ruler. Most people will never rise to power, not because they lack intelligence, talent, or opportunity, but because they're trapped inside invisible chains of validation. They live for approval, not purpose. Every decision they make, every word they speak, is filtered through a single question. Will they like me for this? They call it being kind, being understanding, being a good person. But what it truly is submission. They've built their lives around the comfort of being accepted, not the challenge of being respected. The average man wakes up each day on autopilot. He follows a routine designed by others, built not for dominance but compliance. He scrolls, reacts, consumes, and complains, mistaking motion for progress. He thinks too small, cares too much, and acts too late. When life demands a move, he hesitates. When others push boundaries, he apologizes. He measures his worth by how little conflict he creates, never realizing that in his fear of offending, he's erased his presence entirely. A pawn's mind is reactive, emotional, impulsive, dependent. He argues when he should observe. He defends himself when silence would have made him powerful. He chases validation from those secretly competing with him. Kings, on the other hand, play the game differently. They act from strategy, not emotion. When insulted, they study. When challenged, they reposition. Their calm is not weakness, it's calculation. Every reaction is measured, every word designed to move the board in their favor. Look at any workplace, any relationship, any social circle. The same pattern repeats. The one who controls the frame controls the power. In a meeting, the one who speaks last sets the tone. In a relationship, the one less emotionally invested dictates the rhythm. Power is never about volume or aggression. It's about composure. The one who stays centered while others lose control always wins. Most people live in mental slavery. Their self-worth is chained to opinions, their ambition diluted by the need to be liked. They call it humility, but it's fear in disguise. They avoid dominance because it makes others uncomfortable. They avoid ambition because it invites judgment. And so they stay small, comfortably powerless. But today, that ends. It's time to rebuild your mind, piece by piece, law by law, because before you command others, you must first command yourself. Law 1. See the world as a chessboard, not a battlefield. The weak see conflict and rush to fight. The strong see the same conflict and step back, not out of fear, but foresight. Power isn't won through reaction. It's earned through positioning. The average man treats life like a battlefield, charging into every disagreement, trying to prove his worth. But kings know better. They see the world as a chessboard, a game of patterns, moves, and long-term control. Every conversation, every decision, every silence is a calculated play. When you react emotionally, you surrender your ability to think clearly. You move from strategy to survival. That's what pawns do. They lunge forward, blind to the traps ahead. A king, however, studies the board before making a move. He doesn't fight for every square. He fights for the right ones. He understands that not every battle deserves his energy. Not every provocation deserves a reply. His calm is not submission, it's control. Consider the modern workplace. Most people burn energy trying to be seen, trying to win arguments, trying to prove they're right. Meanwhile, the strategic player observes. He watches who influences decisions, who others listen to, who speaks and who obeys. He learns the flow of power before entering the conversation. By the time he makes his move, the outcome is already decided, because he positioned himself where influence naturally converges. The same applies to relationships, friendships, and social hierarchies. The one who predicts behavior always outmaneuvers the one who merely reacts to it. Your goal is not to be loud, it's to be precise. Power is not about domination through aggression, it's about quiet control through anticipation. Spend more time studying people than confronting them. Watch how they speak when they want something, how they change when they feel threatened. Most reveal their strategy without realizing it. The one who sees patterns before they unfold becomes untouchable. Remember this: chaos is profitable only to those who can remain calm inside it. The reactive man burns his energy fighting shadows. The strategic man directs chaos to serve his design. Every great ruler, from generals to CEOs, mastered the art of invisible positioning. They never fought wars they hadn't already won in their minds. So before you move, pause. See the board. Study the pieces. Predict the play. Because in this world, power doesn't belong to those who fight hardest. It belongs to those who think furthest. Never wage a war you haven't already won in your mind. Law 2. Detach emotion from decision. Emotion is the leash that keeps most men obedient. It tugs them toward guilt when they should walk away, toward anger when they should stay still, and toward fear when they should act. Those who cannot detach emotion from decision remain slaves to their own reactions. They call it following their heart, but in truth it's just surrender. Kings understand that power demands clarity, and clarity only exists where emotion ends. A pawn chooses based on how he feels. A king chooses based on what he gains. Emotion is the enemy of precision. It clouds judgment, distorts risk, and blinds you to opportunity. When you make choices out of guilt, loyalty, or fear, you hand control to others. The manipulative know this. They provoke feelings to guide your moves. A well-timed guilt trip, a flattering word, a tear, and suddenly your power bends to their advantage. But when you detach, when you stop needing to feel good about every decision, you become untouchable. Consider this. You're in a relationship that drains your energy, but you stay because you don't want to hurt them. Or you cling to a business partnership that no longer serves you because they've been loyal. That's not kindness. That's weakness disguised as virtue. Power requires cutting ties when logic demands it. The battlefield of life is filled with men who hesitated out of emotion and watched their empires collapse because of it. In business, emotion makes you chase revenge instead of results. In relationships, it makes you seek closure instead of control. Every time you act from emotion, you trade your throne for temporary relief. That's why kings remain calm, not because they don't feel, but because they refuse to let feelings make the final call. Here's a simple method to regain control. Before any major decision, take out a piece of paper and write 2 lists. Benefit versus emotional impulse. Under benefit, write what you stand to gain long-term. Under emotional impulse, list what your feelings want you to do. Then ask yourself, which list serves the king and which serves the pawn? That single exercise forces logic to take the throne. Power thrives in emotional distance. When you detach, you gain vision. You start seeing people and situations as they are, not as you wish they were. Emotion is noise. Detachment is signal. The king who masters emotional control doesn't move slower. He moves sharper. Detach emotion. Decide like a ruler. Act from clarity, not comfort. Law 3. Master the art of silence and mystery. Kings never explain. They let others guess. The moment you start defending yourself, you lower your value. The world measures power not by what you say, but by what you withhold. Silence is not weakness. It's a weapon. It creates distance, builds intrigue, and forces others to project meaning onto your stillness. In a room full of noise, the man who says little controls the tempo. Most people destroy their presence with overexposure. They talk to fill silence, explain to feel understood, and reveal too much in their hunger for validation. They think openness earns respect, but it only earns predictability. Once people can read you, they can control you. The wise remain unreadable. Their words are rare, their tone deliberate, their silence heavy. Machiavelli knew this truth well. Mystery breeds authority. The unknown always commands more respect than the familiar. Consider a meeting or an argument. The emotional man rushes to prove his point, raising his voice, fighting to be heard. The powerful man waits. He listens, observes, and allows others to reveal their weaknesses through excess words. Then, when he finally speaks, every word lands with precision, because scarcity multiplies value. Silence creates anticipation. Anticipation creates influence. The one who speaks least often holds the most power. Mystery is the art of making others chase your meaning. When people can't predict your reactions, they tread carefully. When they can't read your intentions, they overthink their own. That's control, not through domination, but through uncertainty. Even in relationships, mystery sustains attraction. The moment you reveal every thought, every feeling, you kill curiosity. The king maintains an aura, not of arrogance, but of quiet depth. Here's how to apply it. Reduce explanations, increase presence. When someone questions your choices, resist the urge to justify. When accused, smile and stay silent. Let them wonder what you're thinking. When you speak, keep your tone measured and your sentences short. Speak as though your words are currency, because they are. The more you spend, the less valuable they become. Adopt this rule. Speak only when your words can't be ignored. Let silence do the heavy lifting. Your calmness will make others uneasy. Good. Let them fill the silence with assumptions. Let them project power onto your stillness. Every moment you remain unreadable, you rise in perceived dominance. In the game of power, silence is not absence, it's command. The less you reveal, the more they respect you. The less you explain, the more they obey. Law 4. Control perception, not people. Power is not about control, it's about perception. The greatest rulers in history didn't command loyalty through force. They shaped how others saw them. Power is psychological, not physical. You don't have to dominate people's actions to rule them. You only need to influence their beliefs about who you are. Control their perception, and you'll never need to raise your voice. The weak try to control others through pressure, orders, and emotional manipulation. They bark commands, demand attention, and constantly remind people of their authority. But true kings operate differently. They understand that perception is the throne from which all influence flows. People obey not because they're forced, but because they believe in your power. The image you project becomes the reality they respond to. Think of the leader everyone listens to in a room. He rarely interrupts, never chases approval, and speaks only when necessary. Yet when he does, the entire room goes silent. His tone, posture, and timing create gravity. Others obey not out of fear, but out of respect. An unspoken acknowledgement of presence. That's the art of controlling perception. It's not what you say that matters, but what people feel when you walk in. You see it in business, in social circles, even in relationships. The person who controls perception controls outcome. A boss who moves with calm certainty inspires obedience without asking for it. A man who remains composed under pressure becomes the anchor others depend on. The moment you start chasing people's behavior, you lose power. The moment you control how they see you, you control how they treat you. Your image is your weapon. Every detail communicates authority. Your tone, appearance, eye contact, response time, even your energy. Speak slowly. It signals control. Dress intentionally. It reflects discipline. Respond with delay. It implies value. Never rush to answer messages or defend yourself. Urgency signals neediness, and neediness kills power. When you design your presence with precision, people adjust their behavior automatically. Perception is not deception. It's direction. You are not faking power. You are defining it. The world treats you according to the story you project. Write that story deliberately. Every move, every silence, every gesture should reinforce one message: I am in command. Remember this rule: a king never shouts. His silence commands. You don't gain power by controlling others, you gain it by mastering how they perceive you. Because perception shapes emotion, and emotion drives obedience. In the end, power isn't about forcing hands. It's about guiding eyes. Control perception and people will follow you willingly. Law 5. Always appear calm, especially in chaos. In chaos, the calm man becomes the center of power. When everyone else is panicking, doubting, or reacting, the one who remains composed automatically rises in authority. His stillness becomes gravity, pulling others toward him for stability, guidance, and leadership. In moments of crisis, people don't follow the loudest voice. They follow the steadiest presence. Panic is contagious, but so is calm. The masses lose control when uncertainty strikes. They argue, rush decisions, and reveal weakness. The man who keeps his tone steady, his expression unreadable, and his movements deliberate, immediately separates himself from the herd. It's not that he feels no fear, it's that he refuses to show it. Machiavelli understood this perfectly when he said, "The man who can stay still while others move is already winning." Stillness is not inaction, it's control disguised as patience. Imagine a business meeting where everything goes wrong, deals fall through, tempers flare, accusations fly. Everyone scrambles to fix the problem, but one man sits back analyzing, speaking only when necessary. When he finally does, his calm tone cuts through the noise. People stop talking. They listen. In that moment, he becomes the anchor. His composure communicates something deeper than authority. It communicates certainty. The same applies to personal life. In arguments, chaos, or emotional confrontation, the man who remains calm holds the power. The more someone tries to provoke you, the more your composure exposes their lack of control. When you don't react, you force them to question themselves. Emotional neutrality becomes psychological dominance. Those who cannot control their emotions always end up serving those who can. To master this law, practice emotional stillness under pressure. When someone insults you, pause before responding. When others argue, observe rather than participate. When chaos erupts, slow your breathing and study the dynamics. Ask yourself, who is losing control and who is gaining it? The answer will tell you where the power lies. Over time, this becomes instinct. Here's the secret: calmness is not weakness. It's containment. It means your energy is too valuable to waste on noise. The calm man moves only when he chooses, speaks only when it serves him, and reacts only when it strengthens his position. That's why people orbit around composure. It feels safe, stable, unshakable. In a world addicted to reaction, serenity is rebellion. Be the one who remains still while others destroy themselves with emotion. Because in chaos, the man who stays calm isn't surviving, he's winning. Law 6. Make others dependent on your stability. Dependence equals power. The moment people need you, your logic, your stability, your presence, you rise above them. Power is not always built through dominance or force. It's built through necessity. The one who becomes indispensable controls the direction of others without ever demanding it. True kings don't chase control. They create dependence so naturally that people give it willingly. Most men try to gain influence by asserting authority, but that only breeds resistance. The strategic man does the opposite. He makes himself a source of value others can't function without. Emotional, financial, or informational dependence all are currencies of power. When people rely on you to stay composed, to guide decisions, or to interpret reality, they hand you quiet control over their behavior. Dependence isn't about ownership, it's about design. Think of a leader in crisis. When everyone around him collapses under pressure, he remains calm, analytical, and certain. People begin to orbit around that steadiness. They look to him for cues. What does he think? What would he do? Slowly, their emotional equilibrium ties itself to his. Without saying a word, he becomes the axis on which the group spins. That's the essence of psychological power, making others feel unsafe without your presence. It works the same way in business, friendships, even relationships. The one who provides clarity when others are lost becomes irreplaceable. The man who solves problems, gives direction, and offers composure becomes a silent anchor. And anchors by nature control the ship. But here's the warning. Never make your value too accessible. If people can reach you too easily, they'll stop respecting what you offer. Scarcity amplifies dependence. Give just enough to remind them of your necessity, but hold back enough to maintain leverage. Start engineering this dynamic intentionally. Offer insight, not validation. Provide solutions, not sympathy. Be the one who stabilizes when others spiral. Let your energy communicate control. Your tone convey direction. Over time, people will stop making moves without checking your stance. That's when you know dependence is complete. But remember, your power must come from genuine mastery. You cannot fake stability. It must be built through discipline. Control yourself first, your emotions, habits, and impulses, and the world will begin to rely on that control. The man who commands himself becomes the man others lean on. Dependence is quiet dominance. You don't have to demand loyalty. You make yourself the foundation of it. When others need your stability to stay balanced, you own their rhythm. Be the reference point everyone looks to. Calm, steady, and irreplaceable. Because in a chaotic world, the one who provides stability commands everything. Law 7, reward loyalty, punish disrespect. Quietly, power dies where justice is uncontrolled. A true king understands that influence is sustained not by rage, but by calculated response. You don't shout, you don't threaten, you don't beg for respect, you enforce it quietly. Power is not about public revenge, it's about controlled justice delivered at the right time, in the right way, for the right reason. The weak react to disrespect with emotion, yelling, arguing, trying to prove a point. But kings never react. They record. They remember, they wait. Every insult, every betrayal, every subtle act of disloyalty is noted and stored, not out of pettiness, but out of principle. You don't punish to soothe your ego, you punish to protect your throne. Because when people realize that loyalty brings reward and betrayal brings consequence, your authority becomes law. In the corporate world, the true power player doesn't explode when betrayed. He eliminates the traitor quietly. No warnings, no drama, just silence and replacement. One day they're in the meeting. The next they're gone. The message travels faster than words ever could. Disrespect has consequences. The same applies to social circles and relationships. You never need to announce your boundaries. You demonstrate them through action. The moment someone crosses the line, you withdraw your access, calmly, permanently. That's how kings move, but balance is everything. Power is not sustained by punishment alone. It thrives on strategic reward. When someone proves loyalty, elevate them. Make loyalty profitable. When people see that faithfulness brings opportunity, they compete to stay in your favor. Reward publicly, punish privately. Your presence should inspire ambition and caution in equal measure. The key is precision. Never act out of impulse. Write every betrayal down, mentally or literally, and strike only when it strengthens your image. Timing is the hidden blade of power. If you react too early, it looks emotional. If you wait too long, it looks weak. But when you strike in silence, when the move is clean, logical, and unexpected, it builds fear and respect simultaneously. Machiavellian justice is not about cruelty. It's about control. You're not punishing to destroy. You're reminding the world that every move against you has a cost. Every kingdom survives on fear of consequence. The mistake most men make is confusing forgiveness with wisdom. Forgive if you must, but never forget. Be slow to reward, slower to punish, but certain in both. When you reward, let it elevate your image. When you punish, let it echo through silence. Because the king who enforces justice quietly never has to raise his voice again. Law 8. Build emotional leverage. Before you need it, power doesn't come from what you do in the moment. It comes from what you've built long before the moment arrives. The most dangerous people in any room are not the loud ones. They're the ones who already have everyone's strings in their hands before the game even begins. Most people live reactively. They wait for crisis, then scramble for allies. They burn bridges and chase approval when they need help, forgetting that power doesn't respond to desperation. Power respects preparation. Machiavellian power is quiet, invisible, and patient. It's not about manipulation. It's about anticipation. You don't ask for help when you're weak. You build relationships when you're strong. You create emotional credit in others. Small favors, small acts of understanding, moments of shared trust. Then, when the storm comes, you simply collect on what was already yours. Think of a man who helps everyone without asking for anything. Over time, he becomes a silent pillar in every circle. When others are in trouble, they come to him. When rumors spread, people defend him. When decisions are made, they consult him. Not because he demands it, but because he's already woven himself into their emotional structure. That is leverage. Leverage is not always money or influence. It's emotional positioning. It's having people owe you small debts, not out of fear, but respect. The key is subtlety. Never remind them of what you've done. Never demand repayment. Let the weight of your quiet generosity grow in their conscience until it becomes loyalty. Even information can be leverage. People reveal their weaknesses when they feel safe with you. A careless confession, a private doubt, a hidden desire. These are not weapons to exploit, but data to store. The wise man never uses information to destroy. He uses it to understand where others will bend and where they will break. In a corporate world, emotional leverage is what separates the replaceable from the indispensable. The one who understands others' fears, patterns, and incentives becomes the invisible backbone of every decision. When conflict arises, people turn to him because he doesn't panic, doesn't beg, and doesn't depend. Machiavelli understood that control built on fear collapses, but control built on quiet obligation lasts for decades. Build goodwill now with no visible purpose. Offer calm where others offer chaos. Offer solutions where others complain. Offer loyalty, not flattery. Each act becomes an invisible thread in the web of your future dominance. When the time comes, when the empire shakes or the circle fractures, your leverage speaks for you. No threats, no demands, just silent power collected at the exact moment it's needed. Quote, "He who prepares when nothing demands it, rules when everything does." Law 9. Command through absence. Not presence, power fades with overexposure. The more they see you, the more they think they know you. The more they think they know you, the less they fear you. The modern man confuses visibility with influence, posting, talking, showing, proving, until he becomes ordinary. True power operates in reverse. It multiplies in silence and absence. When you are always present, your presence loses weight. Familiarity breeds comfort, and comfort kills respect. But when you withdraw, when your time becomes scarce, your words fewer, your energy harder to access, the world starts to lean toward you. They begin to wonder what you're thinking. They start talking about you in rooms you're not in. That's when you become a myth, not a man. Look at great leaders, thinkers, and strategists. They never fought for attention. They made others crave it. They spoke little, appeared rarely, and when they did, every gesture carried weight. Their mystery became their magnet. People respected them not because they demanded it, but because distance made them untouchable. Absence is not neglect. It's design. It's the deliberate decision to make your value felt through your lack, not your presence. The best generals don't attend every battle. They make their presence felt through the discipline they've instilled. The best leaders don't attend every meeting. Their silence shapes more behavior than their words ever could. In your personal life, learn to retreat strategically. Don't always respond immediately. Don't always explain your absence. Let people feel your distance. Let them miss the steadiness you brought. This creates psychological tension, a pull. People begin to assign meaning to your silence, wondering what you're planning, what you're thinking, and when you'll return. That's when your influence deepens. The weak man fears being forgotten, so he forces his presence. The strong man knows that withdrawal sharpens memory. When you step back, others project their ideal version of you into the void. They remember your best traits, your best moments, your best power. Your absence becomes a mirror reflecting only your strongest image. Even in strategy, absence confuses enemies. They can't predict what they can't see. They can't counter what doesn't move. The moment you vanish, uncertainty begins to work in your favor. While they guess, you plan. While they speak, you prepare. Machiavelli would say, "A prince is never more feared than when unseen." Presence is predictable. Absence is sacred. Your silence becomes your roar. Your distance, your dominance. Reduce accessibility. Speak less. Move rarely. Make people earn proximity. Because in a world drowning in noise, the man who disappears becomes unforgettable. Rule: the less you're seen, the more they speak your name. Law 10. Turn every attack into reputation capital. Power is not the absence of enemies. It's the mastery of how you use them. Weak men fear criticism because they tie their worth to approval. Kings, however, understand that opposition is a mirror reflecting their impact. Every time someone speaks against you, they're validating your presence. Every attack is proof that you've become visible enough to disturb the order. You must stop defending yourself and start profiting from resistance. Because when you explain, you lower yourself. But when you stay silent, you elevate your position. The wise man does not answer the bark of every dog. He lets his castle walls echo their noise until it fades. Your enemies are your unintentional publicists. They amplify your myth, spread your name, and give you the aura of danger, the very essence of influence. The world pays attention to controversy, not compliance. That's why every great figure in history, from emperors to philosophers, carried a trail of critics. They were hated precisely because they refused to kneel. Machiavelli himself was accused, exiled, and branded a manipulator. Yet centuries later, his name still commands reverence. His enemies immortalized him. His rejection became his reputation. When people fear or misunderstand you, you've already won half the battle of perception. Every attack contains energy. Most people waste it by reacting emotionally. But a king redirects it. When they call you arrogant, you call it confidence. When they label you ruthless, you call it strategic. When they accuse you of manipulation, you call it mastery of psychology. You take their arrows and build a throne from them. Never deny the label. Redefine it. That's how power evolves. The goal isn't to be seen as good, but to be seen as strong. People admire goodness in silence, but they respect strength aloud. In personal life, the same rule applies. When someone gossips, don't defend. Grow quieter, sharper, more intentional. Let your results answer in time. The more unbothered you appear, the more they begin to doubt their own attacks. Their hate loses direction because it finds no reaction. You absorb it, transmute it, and rise. Remember, the moment you're attacked, you've become relevant. The man with no enemies has done nothing that threatens mediocrity, so when criticism arrives, don't shrink, stand taller. Let their words build the myth you're too composed to explain. Let their anger confirm your ascension, because the throne isn't built from applause. It's carved from resistance. Quote, "If you have no enemies, you have no power." Law 11. Outlast everyone. Patience is the highest power. Power isn't built by speed, it's built by endurance. Time destroys the impulsive, but it rewards the patient. Most men lose because they confuse movement with progress. They want the throne overnight, and in their hunger, they make reckless moves that reveal their impatience. But kings know that real dominance is quiet, slow and strategic. The man who can wait without losing focus already holds the advantage. The impulsive man burns out because he reacts to the moment. The patient man dominates because he sees beyond it. He doesn't chase validation, attention, or quick wins. He studies the patterns of human behavior, watches his rivals exhaust themselves, and waits for the perfect opening. Power belongs to those who can resist the need to prove something now. Machiavelli understood this truth deeply. After falling from grace and being imprisoned, he didn't beg for mercy or vengeance. He waited. He wrote. He studied. And he built the intellectual foundation that would later make his name immortal. He played the long game, and history rewarded him. That is the power of time. It erases the noise and crowns the man who remains. Patience is not weakness. It is psychological warfare. When your enemies act from urgency and you remain composed, you control the tempo of the game. The one who dictates time dictates the field. Every empire that rushed expansion collapsed under its own impatience. Every great ruler who endured, from Augustus to modern-day titans, mastered the art of delay. To apply this law, start by reframing your relationship with time. Most people act as if they're running out of it, which makes them desperate. The powerful act as if they own it. Delay gratification. Don't demand immediate results. Build foundations that others are too short-sighted to see. If you're building a business, focus on systems, not spurts. If you're developing influence, think in decades, not days. Power compounds quietly. Every disciplined act, every calculated silence, every choice not to react is an investment. Patience is the invisible force that breaks competitors. While they chase dopamine, you build legacy. While they burn energy on appearances, you collect leverage. While they fade, you remain. In the end, the world doesn't belong to the fastest. It belongs to the one who never stops advancing. The throne isn't taken by force. It's inherited by endurance. So remember this: time is the greatest weapon in your arsenal. Wield it with discipline, and you'll watch your rivals fall from exhaustion while you ascend in silence. Because power isn't in the sprint, it's in the stillness between each move. Law 12. Crown yourself before the world does. The world does not hand out crowns. It does not wait to recognize greatness. The throne is never given, it is claimed. If you wait for approval, validation, or acknowledgement, you will die a pawn. Power begins in the mind, and confidence is the first law of kingship. You must see yourself as the ruler before anyone else does. Because the world responds to the image you project, not the one you hope to earn. Most men shrink before opportunity because they wait for permission. They hesitate to speak, act, or move decisively because they doubt their worth. They think confidence is a reward, not a responsibility. That is the mindset of pawns. Kings know that confidence is not optional. It is the signal that commands attention. Before anyone crowns you, you must crown yourself. Walk as if you own the space, speak as if your words carry authority, act as if your decisions are inevitable. Consider every interaction a stage. The way you carry yourself sets the frame. People instinctively align with those who display certainty. Hesitation communicates weakness. Decisiveness communicates power. The man who acts as though he is already a king forces the world to respond accordingly. Over time, perception catches up with projection. Authority becomes reality. This principle applies everywhere, in business, in relationships, in social influence. When you enter a room, let your posture, tone, and energy signal leadership. When you negotiate, project control before others react. When you make decisions, act with finality. The world is more likely to accept the ruler it sees than the one it doubts. Confidence is contagious, but only if you embody it fully without apology or hesitation. Application is simple but rigorous. Move, speak, and act like the authority you are becoming. Practice it until it becomes instinct. Every gesture, every decision, every tone of voice must reflect the crown you've placed upon yourself. Over time, the world will mirror back the respect, fear, and obedience that you initially projected. The throne is not given, it is reflected. Machiavelli understood that perception precedes reality. A prince must act as ruler even before he is recognized, because authority is born in action, not consent. Confidence is the invisible crown. It sets the standard for others to follow. Remember this truth. Act the part long enough and the crown will fit naturally. The world does not wait for permission. It responds to the man who knows his own power and refuses to ask for it. Step into the role. Own the space. Crown yourself, and the world will follow. Power is not inherited. It is not handed down by chance, birthright, or circumstance. Kingship is self-declared. It is forged in the mind, tempered by discipline, and honed through strategy. Every great ruler, every man who has commanded influence understood one undeniable truth. Authority is earned, not given. It begins with a mindset, a refusal to settle for the role of pawn in a world that celebrates mediocrity. In this video, you've learned 12 unspoken laws that separate rulers from followers. You've discovered how to see the world as a chessboard, acting strategically rather than reacting emotionally. You've learned to detach from impulses, mastering silence and mystery to command respect. You've seen the power of perception over force, calmness in chaos, and the quiet leverage of patience and absence. You now understand how attacks can be transformed into reputation, how loyalty must be rewarded and betrayal punished, and how emotional influence is currency that must be built long before it's needed. Finally, you've learned that confidence must precede validation. Crowning yourself before the world does ensures the throne becomes reality rather than aspiration. These laws are not theoretical. They are practical tools for men who refuse to live small, who refuse to surrender control, and who refuse to be ordinary. Applying them transforms thinking from pawn-like dependence to strategic dominance. Every step you take, every choice you make, should reflect the mindset of a ruler. Stop seeking permission. Stop apologizing for ambition. Stop reacting to circumstances outside your control. Build your power quietly, act decisively, and let the world adjust to your presence. This is your call to action. Internalize these 12 laws. Rewatch this video until every principle becomes instinct. Let them shape your daily decisions, your posture, your energy, and your strategic vision. Subscribe if you're ready to rule your life, not just survive it. Comment below. I choose the throne. If you're done playing small and ready to step into a world where your influence dictates the rules rather than following them. Remember, power is measured not by opportunity but by preparation. It is the patient man who outlasts competitors, the composed man who gains followers, the strategic man who wins without fighting. If you embrace these laws, you no longer wait for the crown to be given. You claim it. You define your own authority, project it with confidence, and enforce it with disciplined action. In every interaction, in every decision, in every move, you become the standard others orbit, the anchor in chaos, and the ruler of your world. In a world full of pawns, you don't ask for the crown. You take it by thinking like a king,